7 Act relative to the extending of certain states of emergency accommodations passed by the General Court and signed into law by Acting Governor Karen Polito on July 16, 2022, revised Section 20 of Chapter 20 of Acts of 2021. In so doing, provided modifications for the Massachusetts Open Meeting Law, which allow flexibility to hold remote-only and hybrid meetings while preserving public access and where appropriate public participation. Currently, that additional flexibility will expire on March 31st, 2025, unless additional legislative action occurs. As part of today's hybrid meeting, all votes will occur via roll call. All right, and given that, we have a period for public comment. Is there anybody here to provide public comment to the board? Tim, is there anybody online?
Provided brief.
Yep.
Very brief one.
Yep. Sure, please have a seat, identify who you are.
I'm Anna Shapiro. Thanks for asking. I won't take too much of your time, but I know you're going to be discussing the fate of the store and the timeline and everything, but I just wanted to say, like, over the 4.5 years that we've been open, we've never had a complaint of anyone having any health issues with our products. I don't believe the board or the Department of Health has had any complaints. And I just wanted to reiterate how safe the products are and how helpful they are to people. They're not having to use medications with side effects and whatnot, or use intoxicating products such as marijuana. Our products are all non-psychoactive. I think the people of Needham are smart enough to go online and order their CBD online. So I think our store provides an access point to the product where the product is all lab tested and really safe. It's all organic and they use the cleanest extraction methods, CO2 extraction. So at least we're ensuring that the people of Needham and surrounding communities are getting a really safe product rather than something they might order online, which, to be honest with you, there's a lot of variance in the quality. So that's all I'd like to say for today, but thank you for your time.
Thank you. Thank you. Is there anybody else?
Doesn't look like there's any.
Not seeing anybody online.
Yeah.
We have one guest online. Is that for public comment too?
No, these are all staff,
Staff.
and then, and then we've got our team.
Fair enough. All right. So let's proceed then with review of minutes. Assume everyone's had a chance to review them. If there are no objections, I'll take a motion to approve the minutes.
Motion to approve the minutes from last month.
Second. Okay, any discussion? Seeing none, we'll take a roll call vote. I'm realizing I'm going to have to start doing this alphabetically. It's not so easy. Dr. Cosgrove? Yes. Okay, Dr. Gandhi?
Yes.
Dr. Partridge?
Yes.
And myself, yes.
We have
Archie's
Artie,
Can't vote.
Can't vote yet.
Yes. Oh, sorry. Gotcha.
She is not sworn in.
So we gotta get sworn in officially, just, I don't think there'd be any problem, but just in case. We gotta.
Yeah.
But Artie can participate in discussion, review the town council.
Okay, community health improvement plan.
Okay, so if you can recall back a handful of meetings, I presented the community health assessment with Tiffany. I think we may have presented on it a couple of times. So, that was the whole process of collecting data, statewide data and local data about sort of everything, demographics and health related to the town, and putting it into a big report. The next step in this process, which is all a part of accreditation, is the community health improvement plan. So the CHIP looks at the community health assessment, CHA CHIP, the community health assessment, and we looked at it and said, what are our strengths, what are our weaknesses, what areas can we work on? And then that goes all into the CHIP, where we pick specific priority areas that will be the focus of the public health division. And this aligns with our strategic plan, which was also presented a few meetings back. So if you remember from the community health assessment, the priorities areas were access to transportation resources for healthcare needs, cost of living burden, mental health and substance use, and physical health, including heart disease and other risk factors. So the accreditation steering committee and a form a newly formed CHIP steering committee, which was made up of various representatives from town areas. I think it was public health, aging services,
Disability Commission, Community Council,
and community garden.
yeah, the
Community
Needham
garden,
Community Garden.
Basically, community representatives
Yeah.
that we pulled together. We presented the community health assessment to them and said, you know, what stands out to you and what areas should we be focusing on? And between those two groups, it was decided that the priority areas for our community health improvement plan should be mental health and wellness, substance use prevention, and physical health and well-being. And that was based on sort of on the, I think it's the third page, a handful of criteria that we decided would be best to choose these priority areas. Like, is it measurable? Can we measure that we're improving? Can it be accomplished within the 5-year timeframe that this CHIP encompasses? Is it connected to the community health assessment? Is it feasible based on what we can do within the public health division scope? What's the impact of this problem within the 5 years? And what is the potential impact of the solution, both immediately and in the future? So that was where we ended up deciding on mental health and wellness, substance use prevention, and physical health and well-being. So the rest of the document sort of goes through broad strokes of what the CHIP is and how it aligns with the strategic plan. We go through each priority area and give just some snippets and data points about why these priority areas were chosen. And then the large majority of this document is our year 1 action plan. This is just a draft document, and it's actually already being reconfigured and reworked as we speak, because these items are reviewed with staff members from the division, and staff can say, I'm making progress on this, or I'm not, or this goal needs to be shifted. But this just gives you sort of an example of things that the public health division staff anticipated accomplishing within this first fiscal year that ends in June, and sort of the specific activities, the date range they expect to accomplish them, who is responsible for those activities, and how will we measure or indicate that we're making progress. So that's lengthy. It's a lengthy document. But if you have any questions or thoughts about it, Tiffany and I can clarify.
Discussion?
I have a question. I'm sorry, I'm scrolling through towards the end to see if it's in here and I just missed it. So you have progress status, which is great in this year 1 plan. I'm curious if you talked about measurable impact as one of the criteria even for selecting some of these. Do you have more sort of process or outcome measures that you are going to be tracking as well as kind of a in progress complete status type thing?
Yes, so all of the, this is, you know, a Word or PDF version of this draft action plan. But these items all went into a project management system called VMSG, and staff are inputting all of these items in there, and they're tracking with specific measurable items. Flyers are created, number of social media posts was one that we tracked, specific indicators to becoming a heart-safe community. So within this system, those specific items are being tracked.
That's part of accreditation too. They require that we do that. So all of these goals and or deliverables have their own measurements that we measure against to see if we hit it or not.
And do they require that there are any true outcome measures versus process? I mean, a lot of these are process, which you need to have, but I'm
Yes.
curious about like, you know, percent of people who.
Yeah, we went through and defined outcome measures for all of these for something to live up to as our hopeful point to get to. Yeah.
Yeah, there's actually I think a document that goes one step above
Yeah.
this action plan that had those final outcome measures that they would be weighed against, which are being, I think, that's also going to have to be continuously updated, because I think as we're working on the projects, we may realize that certain outcome measures were not appropriate, or we need to shift our plan. So the hope is that this document is just ever changing, and that we'll create new ones for each fiscal year, which will have new strategies, new progress measures, new outcomes.
Thank you, Rob. Do you see any sort of stumbling blocks along the way? Like, looking at the first objective, like resources required for this objective, number one is funding. So I was just wondering if you sort of were concerned that some of these things might not be achievable based on things that we don't have yet, like funding.
Yeah, most of the funding ones were before town meeting.
Yeah.
Okay.
And we got good progress at town meeting, so we were excited about that. But yeah, we anticipate another goal of accreditation is to define how we will continue our processes. And a large one is funding. So yeah, we definitely see stumbling blocks along the way. And hopefully that's why it's a living document. We can adjust and change. The system that we are using is very helpful because it was accreditation focused for health departments. And so it also helps us keep track of whether or not we're on par with accreditation, but also allows us to change dates and processes and things like that. So the goal is not to cancel it just because of funding, but we may be extending dates because of funding or something like that. Sort of, yeah.
We do also have, a couple different, when we identify a project that needs funding, we have a couple different options. We can apply through the town budget process, which, is one point in the year. You've got to submit your budget in early October. There's the town manager's hearings. She presents a balanced budget to finance committee. They hold hearings. They present a budget to town meeting votes. So you get one bite at the apple. You've got to plan ahead, right? We do also pursue grants, a lot of grants. And some grants are pretty open-ended. Some grants allow you to kind of tweak them. Others are saying, we want you to do this, and maybe it aligns with what you're trying to do or not. We also are fortunate to have some very large regional grants. And we are starting to take administrative overhead costs against them, which the town has never done before. But that gives us sort of a little extra pot of money, essentially, that we can apply to some of these projects if we're short. Because the town doesn't actually take overhead. We can take overhead basically in public health, and it's 10% of $100,000. That's $10,000 if we need to bring in a vendor or bring in another part-time staff or pay additional hours.
Other questions, discussion? There's a couple comments. Heart disease, I'd switch that to cardiovascular disease.
Sure.
It's probably the more proper term at this point, and a little bit broader as well, because it will encompass stroke risk, which I'm sure is pretty important. And then I noticed under strategy 2 for objective 3 in priority area 3, educate and inform the community about restaurant health and safety practices. Do we want to broaden that to food? Because you cook at home, how do you make sure that your food at home is safe as well, rather than just restaurants? I mean, we have strategy 2 under objective 2, promote healthy eating choices. So we have that part, but the other one just seems rather specific to restaurants. And I think we should be a little bit more broad than that.
Yes, so I think, and I don't know, Tiffany, because are these input into, we can edit these within?
I think that's
Okay. I don't know how long into this we are. So yes, I agree. I think that would be a great idea, because that is something that I know that we do, especially in Nutritionally Needham. When we launch that, there's always a food safety at home component. So I agree. Thank you.
All right, there are no other comments. I think we can move on to traveling meals.
Yes. So
this is yours.
I assume we've all seen the letter.
Yeah.
I'm a little bit disturbed that it was from February 7th, and we're only finding out about this now.
Yeah. There was some behind the scenes attempts at negotiation to try to say, hey, are you really going to do this? I think the frustration for the town is they had been negotiating for 6 or more months on a new pilot agreement, payment in lieu of taxes with the hospital. The really only commitment that the town is making as a payment in lieu of taxes is supporting the traveling meals program, which is something we pay for, but is obviously something that they are giving us a great deal on. So it is a service, absolutely. And sort of the discussion was, you just signed this after months of negotiation. This was the only thing you included, and now you're trying to get out of it immediately. Which was a frustration to us. There are certainly challenges in the food service sector in terms of retaining staff. It's a competitive hiring environment. There is also the expansion of the hospital, which we've talked about before with the board, and one of the reasons we were worried about it in general is, every time the hospital expands, there's more patient spaces, more conference rooms that have, hospital staff that have a lunch. So it squeezes the food service operation there. So we did do some attempt at negotiation before sort of acknowledging it publicly. It's frustrating to me. It's obviously something the hospital has done since back when the hospital was a department of the town, back, when it was the Glover. We are looking for, there's two things we're going to do. We're looking for a short to medium term solution, something in the order of, 30 to 36 months, something like that. With the hope that we could get another institution in town or in a surrounding town to do this and pay them. But, in the same general idea, this is a benefit. They're getting paid for it, but they're still doing us a very important favor. We will also probably go out to bid again. We did go out to bid, and unsurprisingly, potentially, there weren't a ton of food service establishments that were interested in producing lots of meals for seniors at a loss. I'm not very great at business, but that doesn't seem like a solid business model. So we have, and Ed knows this because he's on the Council on Aging board. We did a space analysis of the senior center. We also did a design of specifically food service operations, and if we wanted to bring the food service operations that currently, do the senior lunch program at the Center at the Heights and traveling meals together, and potentially expand them to offer. Right now, there's a continental breakfast at the Center at the Heights. It's very simple, bagels, fruit, muffins. If we wanted to bring that in-house and maybe make it a more nutritionally balanced breakfast. So we have a design for a kitchen that would do that. Then, because of the cost, we actually hired a firm that did the space analysis to essentially value engineer in advance. The design we got from the kitchen study was like, you should have your drain right here. It's like, well, the drain is actually right here, and moving this is going to cost an additional $50,000. So can't we live with the drain here? So we value engineered it to pare it down. Although the cost is basically still $1 million. A lot of it relates to size of the appliances. We have, what you'd look in there and you'd say, that's a really nice oven, but it's not big enough to handle institutional size pans, for example. The fridge and freezer space looks huge if you're used to looking in your own household refrigerator, but if you're, talking to one of the people who prepares meals at the schools, they'll be like, that's really, really small. So a lot of it is in those items. Some of it is in upgrading some systems, and a lot of it is utilities. I did submit that on the town's capital improvement plan with the hope of getting design money in fiscal year 26 and construction money in fiscal year 27. The town does a 5-year capital plan, and every year, the first year is voted on, which, so this year, the capital plan is for approving fiscal year 25 money. And everything out is projection, but if you were living in a perfect world, you'd put something in year 5, and then the next year you'd put it in year 4, then year 3, and year 2, then year 1, and there'd be money for it. So we're trying to jump the gun a little bit because we essentially put something in year 2 and 3. I think that's the hope, is that we can find a bridge solution until we can get construction money. Obviously, construction money will mean construction at the senior center. That will be disruptive. There'll be work we have to do to sort of continue services while construction is ongoing. But that is sort of the plan right now. It is definitely a frustration. I think, the board can see, and we can, when we get to the traveling meals report, that we are, I think every month except for one this year, we're above last year's, and every month we are way above our 5-year average. It's serving a broader group of people. The need is increasing. And so the idea that we have a shaky foundation is not great.
And one of the vendors, did you look at Springwell?
So Springwell does provide, we did send the RFP when we did it to Springwell. They did not bid. Springwell actually pays for the majority of our traveling meals clients. So Springwell does the lunch program at the senior center and at senior centers throughout the region. They are the aging service access point, so they also coordinate protective services for elder at risk reports. They also get state and federal funding to pay for Meals on Wheels. Needham has a program that predates Meals on Wheels, the Traveling Meals program. Springwell has accommodated us. They pay about 75% of the clients on Springwell. 75 to 80% of the clients are Springwell clients. A handful are private pay, and the rest are covered by the Friends of the Needham Board of Health and Traveling Meals. So Springwell does do a majority of our clients. So there is they're already paying a lot of money to do it. I think in their mind, they're paying money and they don't have to do it. So that's a benefit to them, right? They have somewhat limited capacity and they're already doing work in a lot of communities. So they didn't bid, unfortunately.
That's too bad. Because I know I just saw something that Natick, they apparently provide Meals on Wheels for Natick.
Yep.
So I thought, oh, no, they do that already.
Yep.
But apparently they didn't want to, so they didn't.
We can try again. I think we want to try again in case we're missing people, but I'm more hopeful about the going to some institutions in town or around town and saying, do you have the capacity to do this? Could you do this? We will pay you, but could you do it as a community service for 2.5 years until we're ready?
And certain towns negotiating with the hospital, since they're going to be saving money by not doing this anymore as part of the pilot agreement, that in lieu of that, they can just provide us with cash that we can use to help fund this.
I'm not the one directly doing that, but I did say that it would certainly be nice if they made a significant contribution if the town redoes its senior center kitchen, or maybe committed to, if another vendor was willing to do it but said, I can't do it for $6.75. I can only do it for $11 or something. Could be I pay the difference for 2 years or something. I have definitely mentioned that to the town manager. It's very frustrating, I think, and Rebecca has done a great job expanding and growing the program. And we do surveys and we gather data from the community. We know that food insecurity and social isolation from seniors is a big deal. We love the nutrition component of this. We also love the safety check component of this. The board hears, and it doesn't happen every month, but the board hears of the 5 times a year where we find a senior that's on the floor and we call 911. And the question is, depending on the senior, when would someone have found them if we weren't going there every weekday? So we think it's a really valuable community program. We're going to do whatever we can to try to continue it.
So you mentioned that there's a state program, Meals on Wheels, that Springwell's involved in.
Yes, there is a Meals on Wheels program that is in many communities, the federal and state program. The meals would be prepared by Springwell in their Waltham facility. They're, I think, usually flash frozen and reheated. The quality isn't maybe not necessarily exactly what we'd hope for. It's also not a 2-meal packet, which I do think is one of the unique and nice elements of Needham's program, in that you get the hot supper style lunch with entree, side, and you get the cold lunch style dinner with a sandwich, piece of fruit, brownie, milk. That I think that's really valuable for our seniors. I think the 2-meal packet is a big selling point. So that would be something we lose, and certainly I would rather get something to seniors than nothing. But if we can manage to maintain the level of service we have now, which is high, that would be ideal.
Did you, I'm sure you've looked at this, but were the schools ever an option?
So the schools have actually helped us with a number of our kitchen design issues, our discussion with helping us do a costing analysis. And I do have a presentation that I will bring to the board, because we've looked at sort of, if you're a well-run program, how much does it cost to produce the meals? What's the point where you break even? What's the point where you make money, or over this point you start to lose money versus over this point you start to make money, or under? The schools have sort of said, if you needed us for a day or 2 or a week, we could do it. If somehow there was a catastrophic flood and you couldn't do it, but they don't have the capacity to add that permanently. There is some potentially interesting ideas of whether we could piggyback either as an additional member or as a sub member of their purchasing collaborative. So a number of school districts have a sort of a joint purchasing agreement for ingredients. And that would certainly be something, because that is a thing you have to constantly do, and they have expertise in that. If we could, and also have the benefit of a large purchasing group discount. So that would be something we've talked a little bit with them about, and we'd like to explore more, especially if we did the program in-house.
So any thought of rotating amongst the various industrial kitchens that we have in town? So schools can't do it permanently.
Yeah.
Could they do a day a month? Could North Hill do a day a month? Could Briarwood do a day a month? Could, Wingate do a day a month, et cetera? It'd be more than a day a month, I get it, but still, multiple different people. It is a logistical nightmare, I understand that.
Sure. It's not our preferred solution, but I think it's a good option. I guess I'm hoping in our going to vendors or institutions in the community that, if someone said, well, I couldn't do this full time, but I could do it one day a week, then we'd say, okay, well, if we go around to everyone and no one says they can do it full time, but 4 or 5 say they could do one day a week, well, that's a week coverage. So
Right.
it would be logistically challenging. We'd have to get volunteers to go to Briarwood one day and North Hill the next, but that's an issue that can be overcome with coordination. So that would not our preferred solution, but it would still be a good solution.
Are there other towns that have sort of high quality programs like we've got that they run in-house that?
None that I'm aware of. One of the things I find really interesting about public health is sort of how it's grown up over time. So like this is a program that goes back to the 70s or early 70s. And we are the only public health department I'm aware of that has a program like this. Norwood has a dental clinic in their public health department, which goes back to a priority of their Board of Health and Select Board in the 80s about dental care for residents with limited resources. And it's kind of the program grew up over time in response to a need. And you think, well, why does a public health department run a dental office? But it's one of the things I find fascinating about public health in Massachusetts. It's a function of how decentralized everything is.
And the other towns, like in our shared services grants, and everything, they use like federal and state programs. Is that how they?
Most people do, and that is not a bad alternative, and obviously certainly preferable to nothing, because we're very concerned about senior nutrition.
Yeah.
But it would be a reduction in level of service to our residents. So if we can avoid that, we'd love to maintain the same level.
I mean, I think nothing's not a viable alternative.
No.
It's good to have a backup plan at least.
So I'm still stuck on this February 7th date because town meeting is happening now.
Yeah.
And I mean, I think something like this should be brought to the attention of the town at the town meeting.
Okay.
This is a pretty important issue for a number of our residents, that affects a number of residents, and we don't have anything in the budget that we just approved, a couple of nights ago, to potentially fund this, starting in February, because that's in this coming fiscal year.
Yeah.
And I'm a little bit concerned about that, because if we don't have an alternative, where's the money coming from?
Yeah, we do have a high balance in our traveling meals revolving fund. It's an issue I do want to discuss, but there is money from the Friends of the Newton Board of Health and Traveling Meals. They pay for those individuals that aren't able to pay for the cost themselves, but they have a significant balance that they could contribute. Finance Committee did also stress, and I know both Steve and Ed were at town meeting, in the discussion about the scientific expertise and the planning board expertise, that they're happy to entertain reserve fund requests. I will have to go back and double check my calendar. I believe I got this 3 or 4 days after the letter came out, which was 2 or 3 days after I presented our budget to the Finance Committee and they voted on it. So I think it was very not ideal timing. And I think, sort of the discussion was made like, let's see if we can get them to change their mind. Let's not, go to Finance Committee and say, by the way, your carefully arranged budget we need additional $40,000 right this minute.
Well, no, but I mean, you could at least put them on notice and say, listen, we're going to do our negotiating belt and suspenders here. If this falls through, we are going to need this.
Yes.
So we want you to, kind of start planning for that now in this budget, because when we would need it would be in this budgetary year.
Yep.
I agree with Steve. I think maybe we could sort of get them a little bit aware of what's going on now
Yeah.
And then there's always the October town meeting where we could get the
Yes.
town meeting to approve that extra money in the
It
budget.
also begins to put a little bit of public pressure on the hospital to say, I mean, people are not gonna be particularly happy, or they're gonna at least ask questions like, okay, I mean, the hospital's valuable service to the town, but why exactly are you pulling out of this program? And, what is the service, what are you paying in lieu of taxes if it's
Right.
not this? We're gonna open up that agreement as a town and we wanna look at it.
Yeah,
Agreed.
I think a lot of public pressure could be put on hospital administration too.
I am. So I'm not the lead negotiator for the town, obviously, but I am trying to arrange multiple different options. The town manager's already had a meeting with one institution, which was open to further discussion. No promises, no commitments, but was open to further discussion. So as soon as town meeting concludes, that's on our to-do list.
And that could be another month or two. The way we're going.
It's not speedy this year.
The way we're, one of the things too is we could do this without identifying specific people, but we could put together a couple of case studies. And
Absolutely. I
if
think,
somebody says, oh yeah, go ahead, use my name, well, okay, but
sure.
Social media.
Yeah.
Raise a little town awareness about this.
look what the hospital just did to me, and I can't go, and I can't,
I know.
I assume Mary Ann Cooley's been involved with this, because I know she's involved with the hospital on their advisory board or something like that.
The town manager has told them, I think,
Okay.
she basically said, this is an issue, we're gonna have to deal with it. We can't really tackle it until town meeting's done.
Yep.
But yes, she's made them aware of it.
Well, I think putting it off until town meeting is done might not be the strategy from our standpoint. I think town meeting needs to be aware of this and potentially act on it. I mean, I'm not sure how we do that, emergency articles and what have you.
Right. I don't know either, and I know that, town meeting is carefully choreographed and, lots of things like that. And I also don't know, since there's not an article, like how we mention it.
In
But
the omnibus.
That's true. Yeah, you're right. I will definitely take this back and say, the board's really interested in trying to make this an item of public awareness.
And bring it up at town meeting, potentially as part of the omnibus or some other mechanism if funding is necessary this fiscal year. Yeah, blame us.
yeah, one more.
I'm happy to. I throw you under the bus all the time. But I think it's something we need to. Okay.
Sorry, so I am on town meeting in the town where I live, and actually, there was a motion from the floor 2 years ago to create a new position in the budget, and it passed. And I don't mean to throw a wrench into town meeting planning, but, just aware that precedent.
Okay.
Sure.
Perhaps once we get past some of the contentious issues, we have that little quiet period where stuff just sort of passes.
Yeah.
Somebody could get up and make a motion on the floor. Well,
Not talk to the
they're gonna
moderator.
just scream and yell at me, so what?
I don't think anyone's gonna scream and yell when you mention what this is for, that we have,
I don't
we
have
just
a ton
passed
of-
all this senior housing, and isn't that great? And now they're gonna be able to live someplace, but guess what? We can't feed them.
We are also in negotiations, and negotiations is a strong word. We've made inquiries to the state on whether, for example, the lunch program that is currently provided by Springwell, it's produced in a kitchen in Waltham, it's flash frozen and then sent to senior centers, including Needham's, which is where it's reheated and given for lunch for seniors. Whether we could do that in-house, and would they, be willing to give us whatever they currently spend on the Needham lunch program to us so that we could produce it in-house. So thinking about, how we would, if we did get a kitchen, how we would fund a successful program.
Very good. All right, in the interest of time, why don't we move on? We have subdivision off street drainage bond release.
Let me start that. Okay, so this is one that developer has come to the Public Health Division. As you know, Public Health Division oversees off-street drainage bonds, which I included the policy in here, and the engineering, and they do the on-street drainage. So public health has always dealt with the off-street due to public health nuisance issues that have to do with standing water, due to improper grading when these lots are built, as well as water erosion issues that may occur due to improper grading. So that's why public health is involved with these types of bonds. So we had two bonds that were held for lots 13A and 13B, which is 5 and 11 Holmesy Lane, and in the amount of $3,500 per lot. And so we're looking to release the $7,000 bond amounts at this point. And we've got in touch with all the owners and abutters. We do our research behind the scenes. The developer has to notify them via certified mail with their request. And then once we get the green cards back that they've read the mailing, they understand it, we also reach out to each abutter and owner, ask them if they have any concerns, if they've seen any standing water. We make sure the owner is in the lot, the house property once built for a full year so that they can kind of oversee all the seasons, see if anything. And we had a lot of rain this past year. So they've all said that there's no issues, that they can go ahead and support the release of the bond. And then we did our site visits and did not see any evidence. So that's where we're at. So
I remember when this was an issue, because of the nature of the lots and the nature of the property, and everybody was really concerned.
Mhm.
But as you say, we haven't heard anything in like 10 years.
correct.
So I think it's reasonable to do this.
Any discussion?
And one thing I'd like the board to think about in the future is whether the amount is appropriate, given that it's been unchanged for a long time. Should it be a larger amount
Yeah.
potentially?
Seems so.
And then I know the board has seen the comments from the public with concerns that, the reason my house flooded during this intense rain was because there was a big house that, replaced a ranch next door. I don't know that we have a ton to do with that, but I guess it is an interesting thing because for subdivisions, we do. We monitor the drainage and the effect that a new development has on its neighbors. For a single house, we don't. I'm not necessarily advocating that we start doing that for every house that's rebuilt, because that would be quite a lot of work, but it's potentially something to think about.
We don't do the planning board, maybe we should.
We could even just have some discussions with the planning board about this. Because I've seen instances where a small house was torn down right in my neighborhood, and it significantly altered the drainage. And the neighbors, one of our neighbors actually lost a car in their garage because the garage flooded because all this water was coming down the street. And but I think it's something that we probably should pay more attention to. I mean, obviously that flooding issue that's not a health issue. But then if there's standing water, then you have other
That's a health
issues.
issue.
All right, we need a vote on this. So I'll entertain a motion to release the bond.
I'll move to release the bond.
Second.
Okay. So we still have to do this with Rob,
Yes.
Michelle,
Yes.
Ed,
Yes.
myself is yes. Okay. And Artie's still on mute. We see you there, Artie. We know you can't vote today, but we see that you're there.
Yes.
Okay, moving on. Further discussion on Sunmeadow CBD store.
Yes, and I'd just like to draw the chair's attention. We do have Chris Heap, town council here. If the board has questions or if the board wants particular feedback, but I think Tara was going to start off the discussion.
Yeah, so we're just continuing the discussion from last month. Again, I provided all the board members with the packets that I had given last meeting about what the state and the federal and the MDR items were as far as these products not being allowed to be sold in Massachusetts. So I'm open to answer any other questions you may have.
We have not issued any other correspondence except what we had issued previously to Ms. Schnickel. We have an order letter saying that we need these products that fit this category removed, and that we were going to come in, and I forget the date. I think it was a day or two after Patriots Day or something. So we have just sort of let that issue lie. I think we wanted to understand the board's concerns, and obviously telling someone that they can't sell a significant chunk of the product that is sold in their store is a challenge, because realistically, how is the store going to continue to operate? We don't feel we have a ton of discretion. Once we're made aware of something, we do have to enforce it. We have the ability to figure out whether that's the highest priority right now, and are we going to that store when there's a restaurant in crisis or some other issue? And certainly, I would say it's a lesser priority than those issues, but we do think we do have to enforce the rules.
Discussion.
I've done a fair amount of homework on this and talked to Tara and so on. And it just seems to me that at this point, we really had no choice but to order that those products be removed from the store. It's pretty clear from at the federal and the state level that they shouldn't be sold in that particular venue. And in the state, I guess.
Yeah, I agree. I've taken the time to read up on the issue as we decided last month, and I don't think we have any alternative. I think that we need to enforce what's legally allowed and not allowed.
Agree. I mean, I don't think we have an option.
Okay. Then I think the other item that was kind of being discussed last time is, as Tim said, it's not the highest priority, but I think there was some concern about at least allowing a business to wind down appropriately, and not just kind of cut it off at the knees to minimize the financial implications for it, for anything that potentially could happen here. I don't know if there's any discussion about that.
So if that's the will of the board, I'd prefer not to have a vote on that. But if you tell me we need to enforce this, but we have some leeway to determine where in our priorities it lies, I can work with Tara and Sai and sort of look at the current issues we're dealing with and where this lines up, and then we can coordinate with Ms. Schnickel and say, we aren't coming on Monday, but we think this is going to come up to the top of the batting order in 2 weeks or 3 weeks or whatever the case may be.
And I think also there was an issue about some recently purchased inventory and so on.
Yeah.
And the delay of a month should have, because it's pretty obvious, I think, where we were going to have to go a month ago. So it should, we're given it a chance to reduce the inventory in the store during that time.
All right, so I think you have a sense of the board.
Yep.
Okay, and no vote is required for this.
Sure. That's great. So we'll work with Ms. Schnickel, and as I said, Tara and Sai will work with me, and we'll figure out our priorities and let her know when we expect to make a visit. But we'll give her some time to sell down inventory.
Can I ask a question on a related matter, which was in the materials about the liquor stores and what's going on with those as well?
So when we had the call from Shell Sabara, we also did some spot checks after we had done the CBD store. We also went to our local pharmacy, Birds Hill, found some CBD items there. We also checked our liquor stores. They had some CBD THC seltzer enhanced drinks that were there. So we just been keeping our eyes and ears open now for any of these types of products. I had a liquor store contact me about a product that they were pushing on him, and he said, "Is this allowed?" It was a THC seltzer. So these suppliers are coming at our local retail stores with these products. Oh, this is allowed in Massachusetts, and then I do my research, and I gave the information to our local, beverage company, and they said, "Wow, they didn't show us that." So I said, "This is not allowed to be sold." So that's why we've now got these products on our radar. And doing these spot checks in town. And all the other retailers we've worked with have been fine with removing those products. So
Can we give feedback to the state about the fact that retailers
Yeah.
are falsely?
Yeah, so I've contacted them about that. I've said, I do have gotten, when I had gotten the information back from the Mass Department of Public Health, I said, we're finding these products out there. When are you gonna give us guidance to all other inspectors in Massachusetts? We're working on it, we're gonna get that out to you guys. And I said, yes, because it's gonna be blanketed across, all these places if we don't get a hold of it. Luckily, we were given that initial talk from Cheryl, to enforce, say, you should go out there and check for these because they're out there. We were shocked to
I
find it.
wonder if the other towns in our shared services too, we can at least communicate out to that broader group as well.
Yeah, and I've been doing that. I've been contacting the surrounding towns. You have a store in town that might be selling these products, so.
Yeah, clearly the ones that, Wellesley, Dedham, Newton,
Mhm.
even Dover, I suppose.
I would suggest that we need to formally tell the select board, because they control the liquor stores, that we should send out a letter to all of our licensees, all food establishments, that these are prohibited products, and encourage the select board to do the same for all of their licensees.
Okay.
So there has been fair notice given to the entire town, anybody who's actually selling any type of ingestible product.
That's
It's
reasonable.
a good suggestion.
That might not be a bad idea to see if something could pop up in the Needham Observer as well.
Yeah, I mean, pharmacies would count in here too.
Yep.
Yeah, they sell
Birds
food
Hill.
products.
I do think one of the things that we find as a benefit for shared services is that because Needham has a lot of capability, sometimes we're able to give them, the other towns that maybe have less staff and less resources, templates. So for example, if they are interested in doing this, we can give them a template letter and they can change Needham to Dover and, put in their 10 establishments, whereas we have, 100 something.
This might be a good thing for the Charleston Health District too.
Yeah. I would like to bring the board's attention. We do have a tobacco hearing, but it's advertised for 10, so we're not going to start it before 10. The select board is holding an alcohol hearing on Tuesday at 6. So town meeting Monday, town meeting probably Wednesday, select board on Tuesday. It's for Needham Center Fine Wines for sale of underage alcohol. The hearing is being held, and I'm just reading from the support service manager, Miles Tucker, in the town manager's office. The hearing is, the licensee did not have a scanner in store at the time of violation, which is in and of itself a violation of regulations. So you sold underage, but you also didn't have the things that you needed to have. The hearing is being held since the licensee chose not to accept this chair's offer of a penalty in lieu of hearing. So they said, here's what you'd get by the book. You want to just take that, or do you want a hearing? And they asked for a hearing. I don't know how that's going to go, considering they didn't have the scanner, which is one of the requirements. But I just wanted to make the board aware of it. The board is welcome to attend. The town manager's office sent
When, where?
Tuesday, 6 p.m. select board chambers. They extended to you, the board, and to me, and to the police chief an invitation if we're interested in attending.
Who's the vendor?
Needham Center Fine Wines, Needham Center
okay.
Wines, 1013 Great Plain.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna be able to make that. So.
I do think, and I know the Board of Health has worked with the select board, and my team has worked with the town manager's office. And I know it's not exactly the same as the way we regulate tobacco, but I do think the select board is more formal in how they're handling it and are holding people to account. I would still probably like stronger penalties for underage sales, but there are penalties and they are imposed, and there is requirements to have a scanner and use it, and that's not the case. There's additional penalties that are stacked on top. So I think that is trending in a very positive direction. And I know that it had been an issue for the board for a while, that they wanted the select board to take alcohol as seriously as the Board of Health takes tobacco.
Right.
So,
Absolutely.
Okay, so we have a few minutes. I'm wondering, Tim, since we're about to talk about tobacco, if you'd like to talk about tobacco-free generation and Brookline at this time,
sure.
at least until the hearing.
I think that sounds like a great idea. So as the board knows, and Dr. Epstein, you brought this up, I think it was 18, I don't know if it was 18 months ago. It was sometime relatively recently, but not in the last couple of months.
Yes, we're waiting for the Supreme Court to make their decision, which they have made.
So the concept is a little different than tobacco 21. Obviously, it's not just raising the age, it's raising the age for purchase for a particular cohort to say, if you are under 21 now, you will never be able to purchase tobacco products. If you're 55 now, you will still be able to purchase tobacco products in this case, Brookline. I know that a number of communities are very interested in implementing this. We discussed it because I'm the president of the Mass Health Officers Association right now, and a number of communities have asked MHOA for a letter of endorsement. We had a long discussion, and I think it's been influenced by how Stephen and Ed and I have talked over the years about tobacco. Nicotine-free generation is an interesting proposal. We know that the brain is still developing, especially the risk processing centers, until about age 25. It obviously would take a very significant shift societally to move to age 25 to be the age where you can drink alcohol or smoke tobacco or enlist in the military or something like that. I don't love the idea of a prohibition. I much prefer the age restrictions. I much prefer additional, use tax, for example, to make the price higher so that younger buyers or people with more limited resources don't make a choice that is unhealthy. So I generally prefer things that try to move you in the right direction, but don't outright prohibit you. I mean, I go back to thinking about like retirement plans, right? And switching the default. So it used to be you could enroll with your employer in a retirement plan. Now many employers will automatically enroll you unless you choose to unenroll yourself. And that switching of the default is really powerful because most times people aren't going to do it. So if we make it so that it's very hard for you to get tobacco, you might not make that initial choice and get hooked. I don't know if I really support the idea of the nicotine-free generation, but it is intriguing. So obviously we know the harm of tobacco products.
Discussion.
I think it's an intriguing idea. I like the overall concept of it, but I don't think it's practical. I don't think it's something that would be easy to get people to see the overall sense of, in terms of you could make other bad decisions age 21, but then you couldn't buy cigarettes. Like that would be the one thing that you pick. I think you have to look at the experience of other places that have tried this, like New Zealand, that put it in and then quickly repealed the entire idea for the whole country. So I would certainly be much more in favor of supporting higher age limits, like 25, or that would be a matter of discussion, but that's much more of what I would be in favor of.
I agree. I think, in some ways making it prohibited, I don't know. I don't know the data as well as maybe some of the others here, but I feel like when you just say absolutely no, it makes it even more enticing, I think, to some. And if you're 21, I mean, even at 18, you can join the military, right? But if you're 21 and you can buy alcohol and other things, they're all bad for you, and we allow that. I guess on the flip side, though, we have laws about seatbelts and other things, and so we do have a precedent for restricting personal choice in other contexts. But I just think this would be a tough one to do.
And I brought it up because I think it's intriguing. I personally would support it.
Agreed.
I was kind of waiting to see what Brookline, how that court decision went. Because I didn't think we wanted to necessarily go out on the limb we did with Tobacco 21, with a leader and set the precedent for the nation. Now Brookline has done it. A few other communities actually in the United States have also done it, is my understanding as well. And we would be supporting, Brookline essentially if we did that. And their hope would be that it would spread throughout the state and then perhaps throughout the nation. There are some products that truly are dangerous without any real redeeming qualities. This is one of them.
Yep.
And I think we're right that there needs to be a high bar. And I agree that there are lots of problems with prohibition. I mean, we've talked about that before. On balance though, on this one, I think I would support it myself. I think we're gonna get close up on time here. So I didn't know if we wanted, it sounds like the sense of the board right now is to, not move forward with something like this, but, maybe entertain, age restrictions in the future. We don't have to move on this, but I think we brought it up in part because of the Brookline decision that happened recently.
And the decision itself, which I don't usually read SJC decisions, but I did read that, pretty strongly affirms the rights and powers of Board of Health to regulate. I don't know if the opponents really expected anything different, because it to me seemed like pretty settled case law, but it was a strong statement in favor of the ability of boards of health to regulate substances.
I think maybe we should maybe do a little bit more study on the issue, and then consider it down the road.
Well, and I think considering the age change as well, like we should consider what, all options that we can.
I know that Belmont had considered raising the age of purchase of tobacco to 25, and then they dropped it. And I'm not sure why they did. Could probably.
And then, even,
Like,
I'm sorry, I thought you were done. But just even to consider age changes on the way to something like tobacco 21. Like, you went from 18 to 21, 21 to 25. And then, tobacco has been around for thousands of years. To go from 21 to a ban for a generation and ongoing is maybe difficult to achieve, but if you could slowly get there in a more practical and the way that society was accept better. This is how I feel about it.
Okay.
I think if you've never gotten involved with tobacco, this would be a good way to keep you from ever getting involved.
Right.
Just say,
Sure.
okay, I'm not 21, I can't have cigarettes, okay. And now all of a sudden, well, I can't have them ever.
Yeah.
And
There's
this
something
is
that's very
figuring out.
intriguing about that, right?
Yeah.
Especially when we're talking about addictive products,
Yeah.
and we are talking about risk processing centers of the brain not being fully developed still.
Can I say something?
Yeah.
So one thing I would say too, that if we entertain the idea, we also need to entertain the idea of strong education to parents, because if parents are still doing it and kids see them doing it, that also creates the still desire to do it, right? So I think we should come up with a campaign if that's the case as well, to do both of them at the same time.
Yeah. All right, it is 10 o'clock.
It is.
So we can open our hearing on the sale of tobacco to an underage youth.
Tara, did they indicate they were going to attend?
They did.
There's somebody out there.
Texted him.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, he's here.
Good.
Hi,
Hello.
I didn't know if I could just walk in.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, sorry.
I was sitting outside. Thank you.
Yeah.
You could just identify yourself for the record.
Sorry?
I just need you to.
Jabbar Shassim. I'm the owner of Great Plain House Gas. Great Plain House.
Great, thank you.
Okay, so we're here today. We've invited Jabbar. We conducted a routine tobacco compliance check on April 30th, and the underage youth was sold a Zyn pouch tobacco product and was not asked for her ID. We did do an ID-based check, so she had her ID on her, and the sales clerk had proceeded to sell the product. We've invited Jabbar in to speak to the board about what may have happened, how this could be prevented in the future, and we'll go from there.
Yeah, sure. So it did happen. I went through the tapes and everything like they told me at the time, and the employee did sell without asking for an ID. A mistake happened. I'm not here to make excuses for him. He knows that he shouldn't have done that. He's been with us for 3 years. This is the first time this happens with him. We have checks in place. We always talk to the employees about checking. Our system underwent an update Wednesday morning, a couple of days ago. And now we're able directly, without any special machine, to scan like the IDs of the people. And if it's a fake ID, it won't go through. And if it's expired, it'll tell you it's expired, all that. So that got implemented this past Wednesday. It's not up to us. It's like an upgrade that comes from global or mobile, whatever you want to call it. So that started happening, and now it prints like on. I brought a slip with me just to show you, like, as an example of what it shows. It shows you the date of the customer on it, so verified basically. Customer ID verified, and it shows you like the date of birth right next to it.
Yeah.
Does it alert about age as well as expired and other things like?
If it's expired, the transaction won't go through.
But what
It
about
won't.
age, like under?
It's 21. It's up to 21. So if it's underage,
It will alert.
It won't let you go through the
Okay.
transaction. So the only way the receipt will come out and the transaction will go through if the person is over the age of 21.
I see. Right. I mean, up until this, I mean, at the time that the sale was made, you had a scanner in place though, correct?
We have a scanning system like for the register, but we couldn't scan like IDs. You would have to look at the ID in person and determine, know if he's 21 or not.
Didn't we ask for a scanning process
I think it was one of these things that we had
or just encouraged?
encouraged, yeah, but we didn't mandate,
We had to
Right.
mandate it.
And it's like the system, because it's not up to me to choose the system that I have. It's all the gas stations we have the same exact system. It's supplied, well, we pay for it, but Global makes a deal with a specific manufacturer, and that's all we have. And they push updates to it regularly, on a regular basis.
But in this case, the employee didn't even ask for the.
Yeah, no,
So that, the system wouldn't help
So
with
this
that.
wouldn't have helped at all, but at least now, anytime any tobacco product, from a lighter to a pack of cigarettes to anything that has to do with tobacco that gets scanned on the scanner, a screen pops up in front of you that asks you to verify the ID. So that's the only way to get past that screen is to scan the ID. So if you don't scan the ID and you hit cancel on the
Okay.
screen, the sale gets canceled.
Okay.
It doesn't stay on the screen, and you
So it
can't
should
go
put
through
it-
it. You can manually input the date too, or you can scan the ID, but there's no getting past that screen without a verified
ID.
date being going through.
Discussion?
Sounds like a good upgrade.
When was the last, or were there any previous violations?
Once.
yeah, it was back in 2015. It's been a while.
2015, okay, so
Yeah.
9 years.
Can you talk about, you mentioned you talk about this all the time with your employees. Is there, what sort of,
Just reminders, check IDs. I mean, both stations that I'm at all the time. It's the first thing we talk about. We work a lot with the Board of Health and Dover, and even here, like you guys come in all the time, and we always try to do everything possible to stay compliant with everything that's asked of us.
Yeah, we pulled up their training doc from this past year's
Yeah.
permit, and the person that sold was on the training doc. They signed it and dated it. So they did the training,
Yeah.
and so we were like, they're even trained, and they still didn't ask.
So, I'm not trying to make excuses for him, but the employee that this happened with, I don't know if I should say this, but he suffers from a lot of mental health problems. Earlier this year, he missed a month of work because he stopped taking one of his medications. So me and his mom are always in constant contact, and he's not young, he's a 50-year-old person. But he lives with his parents, and he's been with us for 3 years, and we've been seeing improvements in him, like and socially, and he was doing great. And then we get hiccups here and there that what I mean. So this past time happened in February. I have the messages with his mother, and he just one day didn't show up. So we called him. He didn't want to come to work. So his mom called me and told me he's been having a rough time, whatever it is. And I understood that. So, we gave him the time he needed, and he got better. Nurses started coming to the house and helping him, and he started getting back on his medication, and he's been great. But if you ever see him in person, like, he doesn't talk, he's a very quiet person, just does what he's supposed to do. And over the years that he's been with me, it's definitely made a positive impact on his life. Just from us seeing him day to day of how he's starting to interact with people differently. So for discipline purposes, I can't really discipline him because that would really go against what I've been trying to do to help him for the past 3 years. I would not, I wouldn't fire him or just suspend him or anything like that because I feel like that would negatively impact him. But, you know, other than just the constant every day when he comes in, you know, we talk about it. And if not me, the manager that's there on site, because I'm not always at this location. But just reminders, you know, always have to check IDs. I mean, he even called us yesterday saying the person trying to buy tobacco products was over 21, but his ID was scanning as expired. So he said, don't sell them. And he didn't make the sale. You know what I mean? So he's checking, but it has to be like a constant reminder, you know, right? The conversation has to be brought up with him all the time.
Any further discussion?
No, I think clearly a violation happens. We need to discuss what the consequences are gonna be.
Is there a motion?
So the board does have discretion, and in the past it has chosen to impose the suspension, but waive the fines, both local and Massachusetts, if they believe the vendor has a either history of compliance or has taken positive steps to ensure future compliance.
I think, you know, we sort of heard the positive steps that have been taken.
Mhm.
And when was the last?
2015.
2015, yeah.
That's a long time ago.
This is the second one in my
Yes,
time.
the second one, right.
So I know it's the second one.
Been a long time. I mean, you know, I think if that's the precedent that's been there in the past, I would be fine with that. And given the upgrade to the system, I would even be fine with maybe a lesser suspension, maybe not 7 days, but less. But if that's even an option.
That's, yeah, we've run into problems doing that.
Okay.
There's just too much ambiguity when other vendors come in and have issues. So
So then I can,
we've often taken some leeway with the fine.
Yeah.
We've never taken a leeway with the suspension.
then I'm fine with that.
But we have also had some discretion in terms of when the 7-day suspension
That is
occurs.
correct.
Is that correct?
Yeah, the board can instruct Tara to work with the establishment to figure out an appropriate time for the suspension.
So then I would make a motion and that we impose the 7-day suspension at a time to be determined by Tara and the owner, and waive the fine.
I second that.
Hmm?
I would second that.
All right, any further discussion? Okay, we'll come to the vote. Rob?
Yes.
Yes.
Joe?
Yes.
And myself, yes.
Thank you.
There's
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So does it start now or?
No, we'll connect and then we'll
We'll talk.
determine. Yeah,
Okay.
when it'll be. All right, thank you.
Staff updates.
We didn't get to this last time, so I'm glad we're going to have time today. The staff has obviously been working very hard, as I think you can see from the packet.
All right, so
I think Ginny's up
let's
first.
try to do this in order, right? So let's start with nursing.
Should I go back from like last month to this month? Because I cannot remember what I did last month.
So, yeah. The good news is, we also read this, so
Yeah.
you can just start going high.
Perfect. Single thing. So I did start with camp application binders and reviews. Right now we have about 11 applicants for camps. So just been reviewing, and so far they've been following the new updated guidelines that were just approved by the state. They mainly focus on medical camps, but there were some changes to sports and residential and camps as well, and they're all following it well. Hannah did start her Heart Safe with the ambassadors. They're still continuing to map out the AEDs in town, and we designed a T-shirt that we hope to help promote Heart Safe in the community that she's hoping to offer to. Is it the Great Bear Run?
Yeah, we're gonna order enough for multiple different events that they'll go and teach CPR to. So start with the Great Bear Run, which I believe is next Sunday.
And then we also had the opioid community forum, I remember that, last.
It was April,
It was like, yeah.
a month ago, like April 10th.
Literally a month
yeah.
ago. Yeah. Those are my updates. Any questions at all?
No? Okay, let's move on. We have emergency management next.
Kristen's not there.
Okay, is to leave there?
Yeah.
Hey, there he is.
We would like to highlight one key update today. We have been working on verifying name of the specifications. To verify the information and then we compile any change. So eventually we report these updates to the project applications in the regional database and the goal to map it in GIS for the region. Then happy to answer.
What's going on?
Nothing.
Okay. All right, any discussion? Nope. Okay,
Thanks, Tyler.
very good. All right, accreditation, Lynn.
Honestly, I have very little to report. We're working really hard, working consistently, and plugging away. I'm feeling very confident about where we're at in the process. And I can't really add more than what I've written to you all. But if you have questions, I'm happy to answer.
The one thing I might highlight, I think the board noticed, started last month, but all the monthly reports look the same, are branded the same. That's the result of one of the branding projects we had for accreditation. So, you know, consistent look and feel of memos, reports, letters, that sort of thing. Kind of a minor thing, but it's nice.
It is nice.
Yes. Yep. All right, following that, we have traveling meals, which we've discussed a fair amount already.
Yeah,
No, okay.
she didn't really say that she had much of an update. There was a slight dip, as you can see, but that's typical. So she didn't want you to be alarmed by that. But other than that, unless you have any questions.
It's still higher than the last 2 years.
Yeah.
Last 5, yeah.
Yeah.
Woman, yeah.
All right, any questions about traveling meals? Okay, epidemiology, Julie.
I don't have a ton to really highlight. I did remove the vaccination data that I had in here because our vaccination numbers were at a total standstill. I guess to be accepted. So I did include some wastewater data just showing a dip. This is in the whole, this whole southern region, so it's not just Needham that this encompasses, but the dip in the COVID and the wastewater is a great sign. I wanted to highlight that during the COVID emergency, there was a national hospitalization system for reporting COVID. So hospitals were required to report certain things like capacity, and this requirement has sunset. So now it is encouraged that hospitals report the data, but encouraged doesn't mean a lot. Apparently Health and Human Services is proposing a new rule requiring hospitals to continue reporting COVID hospitalizations during non-emergency times, and they have an open public comment period on this now. And I'm happy to send that link if anyone is interested in providing comment. But I guess we'll see how that progresses. But for now, the data that we get on hospitalizations may be very different. Just a few other things. Let's see. Biosafety Committee, Sai and I finally completed the inspections for the all of the facilities that we have in town. This was a very new process. I think that we will tweak it and improve it over time. But overall, it went really well. I think the most important component was that we were able to build relationships with all of these people who we've only interacted with via this online portal and via email. So it's been really nice to meet all of them and to see all of the lab spaces. We have quite a few new labs in town, so there was not a lot of work done. I think next year's inspection will be much more telling, or whatever the next inspection is. But I will say that each lab facility really had a dedicated safety personnel that was able to meet with us and who handles everything related to employee safety and environmental health and safety, biosafety specifically, which was amazing, or they hired external consultants to handle it. So I'm feeling like all the companies are being really responsible. Again, we'll see what happens over time. But I think it was really useful, and we're hoping to convene the biosafety committee sometime in May just to go over that. And because the renewals will be due for the first time at the end of the month. And then last, I just wanted to highlight that we're going back to the sunscreen dispensers, which we were very excited about last year, but we got a late start to. I know there were some issues about how thick and gloopy the mineral sunscreen was last year, so we have now ordered some sport sunscreen to put in a couple of places, still offering mineral in other places. We're trying to get people to use the sunscreen, and so perhaps there will be some weight on chemicals, but blends into your skin a little bit better. So I think we're going to try to put up some QR codes to get feedback on that as people are using the sunscreen. But for now, we're going to put them up at one of the DeFazio dispensers and up at the pool. So maybe the sports sunscreen will be better used this year, but we'll keep updating you through the summer.
So they're not up yet?
They're not up yet. We're going to put them up next Monday, I believe. Or the dispensers are still there, but we have to put the batteries and sunscreen back in. And then we're going to try to really blast it on social media and in the Observer and all of that to make people aware the dispensers are there and full again.
And remind me, like, how often did we have to refill them, or did we have a sense of usage last year?
We did not have, Ginny and I were just kind of going out and checking them. I think we checked maybe once a month, to see, and they were not used like we hoped they would be. But I'm hoping
pool one was. The pool one was
like
like halfway down.
Yeah. And we did receive feedback from Park and Recreation that the mineral sunscreen is not super duper for the pool filter.
Yeah.
So we were happy to switch that over to Sport to maybe help them out a bit as well. Yeah, I'm hoping just exposure over time, people will start realizing it's there, and maybe switching over to the Sport sunscreen will make it a little more popular.
Maybe the pool staff can help promote it, that it's there too.
Yes, that's a good idea.
The QR code, you could also, get the dispensers empty, somebody could report it that way too.
Yes. We're hoping to do some like educational by the pool and maybe the senior center and a couple of other places. We got some free swag type items from the sunscreen company. So we're hoping to make a little bigger of a town-wide push this year.
I'm thinking at DeFazio, like, I don't know if Needham Soccer, like they send notes out to parents all the time, and it might just be a way to get the word out to folks that it's there.
It's a great idea.
I mean, the camps do have to say, you have to have your child come to camp with sunscreen, or they have to get permission slips to help them apply sunscreen at camp. So I have 2 camps running at DeFazio, so I'll make sure that they know it's there.
I was thinking about even pre-camp time, the soccer teams are out there now, so. Yeah.
That's a great idea.
And then I had another question, but now I'm forgetting, what was your topic before sunscreen, Julie?
Biosafety.
Biosafety, oh, thank you. Short-term memory issues. Were there any major kind of learnings or takeaways or,
I think really our biggest, the biggest thing we tried to emphasize was to host consistent safety meetings. That was the biggest thing. And a lot of them were, they were holding some sort of informal safety assessment. But what we tried to do was encourage all of the labs to do self-inspections, right? I think we showed up and we tried to say, we want you to police yourself because we're not here frequently enough to police you, nor are we the experts in what you do, you are. So we really encouraged them to do some sort of a formal inspection process, which some of the labs were doing and the other labs did agree to do, where then they could walk through the lab, self-assess what's going right, what's going wrong, and then meet about those results. And we did find out from the labs that some of them had different committees. They had their biosafety committee, and then they had this sort of environmental health and safety committee, which was discussing more like occupational health concerns. And so we did say that as part of the biosafety process, we would like to hold the right to ask for those environmental health and safety minutes, to which every company said they were happy to share. We're interested in, their ability to do these risk assessments for biosafety agents, but we're also interested in what are they doing for employee safety and what measures are they taking. So I think that was the biggest takeaway. But yeah, the labs I was very impressed. They were very well organized. And
I mean, one other thing you could think about is creating a network of those primaries at these sites so they can interact with each other.
Yes.
Because that kind of learning community could be useful to them. And then the only other thing I was thinking is for the committee that we set up, have thanked them for the help that they've been giving us and, their continuing participation. Because I know we have, how big is the committee? It's like 5 people, right?
yeah.
I don't remember if I'd love to recognize them because it's been a big service, obviously.
Absolutely. Yeah, we can definitely do that because they have been fantastic. It's been a great experience so far, I think, right, Ed?
Maybe I have to make sure they know the board appreciates them.
No, they've been good. I'm impressed by the citizen members of the committee too.
Yeah.
Both of them are really
Passionate and interested.
right out there. Maybe what we should do is once a year, have some kind of a meeting and get all of the people that are licensed, try to get them to come to a meeting. Just present maybe new ideas or even just have an informal discussion at the meeting with different people and the issues maybe an issue that they dealt with during the year and how they solved it. So
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. And we have a very reasonable number we only have 5 companies in town. So I think that's a very reasonable thing to be able to pull them together.
I've got 3 comments on the sunscreen.
Sure.
Yes.
One's camps. Just make sure that, as much as, yes, it's great that they know that it's there, we shouldn't have them relying on it.
Right.
They need to have their own.
Yeah, a lot of them have the requirements, they need to submit children of their own.
Second is the sports sunscreen. I'm assuming that's a chemical instead of mineral.
It is. We're going to put the ingredients up on the.
Thank you.
On the
Because we have a
They
lot
sent us
of
that exact
people in
thought.
town
This
who
is just
are
a
very, very concerned about that.
Yeah.
And the third is timing. So, when you think about how high the sun is in the sky, from the equinoxes, basically is where you're working, right? So we are now about 1 month away from peak exposure, right at the end of June. So right now the sun is as high as it is in late July, and we still don't have our dispensers up. That said, people tend to be outside more when it's warmer, and it's not
Right.
that warm yet. So I think we may want to start a little bit earlier.
Okay.
Just bearing that in mind, and letting people know a little bit earlier as well that hey, we know you're not outside a lot, but when you are now, that sun is actually really strong, and you can get a burn right now. So there's a happy medium there.
Yeah.
But I just want to consider kind of where that timing is, because when you think about it, it's like when people are wearing sunscreen up until probably Labor Day. That would be the equivalent of starting in like early April.
Yeah, we can absolutely work on getting them out earlier. Yeah, we've started the education component a little bit, but
We did start, so we're doing right now focusing on Skin Cancer Prevention Month. So we are putting out data. Actually, today's post was about sunburns and about overcast and about how every skin type should be protected. So we are putting it on there, and we're gonna ease our sunscreen into the education.
Yeah, hopefully they'll use this. I mean, that's the real test.
Did you have it going by Memorial Day last year?
no, we didn't.
Because there's a
Last
big
year-
soccer
That's
tournament.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there'll be, with all those fields you have, they'll all be used all the time, and lots of people hanging around, waiting for the games and things like that, so make sure they're topped up for Memorial Day,
Last
if
year,
you
we
can.
thought about this so late, and then we're like, we need a PO, we need to get the W-9, we need to start ordering. And by the time I think we got everything up, it was like June.
Yeah,
So
this year we're feeling better equipped. The soccer tournament is good to know.
yes.
Yeah, Nito Soccer would be a good partner on getting the word out at least.
Yeah. That's
Yeah,
a
I
big
think
turn.
it could be a big, it could be a big thing. All right. Substance use prevention.
Yes, good morning. SPAN and our peer recovery coach spent a good amount of April doing outreach and presence in the community, noted by a presentation at the Rotary Club meeting last month, as well as the Massachusetts Association of Public Health Nurses meeting. In addition to that, we were at the Take Back Day with the Needham Police. We had 4 SALSA students. And I want to just comment, there's a typo in my collection data on my report where it says 75.8 pounds per month average from November to April. It's actually 73.3. So if I could make note of that, I apologize. I will just say that the monthly average that we've been tracking has been increasing. So for example, the 73.3 monthly 6-month average between November of last year and April of this year is almost 16 pounds over the monthly average from 2 years ago. So I think that people are paying a little more attention, if you will, to the importance of bringing in and turning in expired or unused medications. So we're happy about that. Just quickly, we completed the 3rd year of our Stop Act grant in April, and work continues on compliance checks and the TIPS trainings that you'll see noted in my report. And lastly, in terms of our outreach, we, Sarah Shine and I conducted mental health first aid, youth mental health first aid for Needham Housing Authority staff last month. So we were glad to see their interest in having that training.
Okay. Questions, discussion? No, all right. So let's go a little bit out of order here because I want to do substance abuse and substance abuse. So, all right, so Carol, you're up.
Nice to see you all, and thank you for having us. Lydia's there, and she'll give our update. We've had a busy but productive month, and happy to be ending FY24 nearly at a balanced budget.
Yes, okay. So last month on April 25th, we had our annual meeting. It was called our strategic plan kickoff meeting because we were revealing our approved strategic plan with our members from each of our 4 communities. We reminded them of grant background for those who are less familiar, an overview of what we've been doing so far, and then a reveal of the final strategic plan. We had a short form version of the plan created. I think we shared our plan when it was approved in January, but it's 90 pages long. So we had a 10-page version made to share. And we were able to put our approved strategies up on the wall, have participants walk around, review the strategies, and provide suggestions and connections for moving forward with next steps in implementing the strategies. We also have been working hard still with our youth engagement intern, Natasha, who you all met in October. Our Photo Voice project had pivoted a little bit from being a 5-week commitment to a one-time commitment in each town, just due to difficulty with recruitment. We worked very hard, but we weren't able to retain enough students for a long-term project. So our new goal, we're using a campaign called My Why from NIDA. Students share their why, their reason for staying healthy and substance-free. We're having students write down their reason, hold up a sign, take a photo, and the photos are being compiled into a 4-town video. Our goal is 30 students from each town. We so far have 30 students from Dedham, 30 students from Needham, and we're working on Walpole and Westwood. And Natasha will be completing the video for us. We are also working on, we actually just finalized another adult caregiver and trusted adult community education and empowerment campaign with the same Talk They Hear You materials we've been using for over a year, an updated and relevant PSA in the same cinemas we used last spring, Legacy Place and Patriots Place, encouraging adults to have frequent age-appropriate conversations about alcohol and other drugs with young people in their lives. So that will be on screen starting next week, I think. Anything else,
If
Karen?
possible, we can share the link to that and Tim can share it with the board. It's a compilation of what the Talk They Hear You campaign is and is really valuable. Because my husband's watching my grandchildren, because we feel that they have a screening tool for parents, they have a parent evening PowerPoint program, there are resources. So SAMHSA is really working hard to make, and a mobile app, to not only make this a place to start these conversations with youth young upstream and have them frequently, but also for resources for assessment and support. And so the PSA cut that we'll send Tim to show you is an overview of the campaign and then our 4 towns logos.
Yes, and I'd love to share the short form strategic plan too. I was thinking on my way over I should have printed it, so I'll bring that in the future, or I can send it electronically.
Yeah, I mean, you could send it to email to us.
Yeah.
Very easy. Okay. Any questions? All right, then let's do shared services next, since we've just talked about 4 towns and what's going on with substance abuse. So we're coordinating all these towns. Yeah.
Hi, good morning, thanks. So busy, it's been very busy. Cy and Tara came and presented at the April Charles River Advisory Board meeting about the tobacco program. Yeah, I was there. And the other members of the community found it really helpful. So we appreciated them taking the time to talk about that. There was a lot of talk about compliance checks. Dover and Sherborne have, I think, each only 2 vendors. So it's something that they haven't necessarily spent a lot of resources on. They don't have a lot of demand. So we're particularly interested in seeing how might they incorporate that into their program. So that was a success. The intermunicipal agreement continues to inch towards the finish line. We are just waiting for, for Dover. I was communicating with the agent there just a little bit ago. They have a meeting with town council on Monday. So the other communities, so Needham was all set, Medfield is all set, Sherborne is all set. So just need to hear from Dover on their issues. Mass Association of Health Boards is ready to help us as we need it. I don't anticipate we will, but have my backup if needed. And right, so let's see, I had said last time I wanted it to be May 15th, and that's not gonna happen, but I don't know, maybe May 31st, for the agreement to be executed, approved by boards. We've been told it can be done by the agent. So that would be a great accomplishment. Sam Menard, who's at Soil and Valley Incubator training this morning, she organized a training opportunity for the training hub. And offered a chance for people to come practice their pool inspection skills before the pool inspection season crops up. It's something that inspectors really like because they don't do it that frequently. It's great to have a chance to kind of test, or if they're new to the field, it's a great opportunity for someone to be trained. So she organized that. It was really successful. Worked with Westwood to use their pool. Drew 10 folks for the training. It actually just happened on Monday. So nice to see that getting rolling with the training hub. And we're working with HR about the posting for the regional public health nurse position. We want to make sure that that's distributed broadly in places that will attract good candidates. And I think that's it. Any questions on anything?
Any questions, discussion?
I did make note of the couple mentions y'all had about shared services.
I've been to the meetings, and I think it's going very well. People seem to be very willing to cooperate and work together. So
thanks for saying that. I think we've made
it's been good to get to meet people from surrounding towns. But.
Yes.
Okay.
Environmental. Tara.
So,
The big one, yeah.
sure, so I'll start off with little highlights that we have here for the staff training. So Cy actually got into the Mass Fit class this week, the food class, so that's great. I don't know how many more Needham people they may take. This is a very high demand class. I applied to take it as well, but I'm like, I'd rather have Cy take it, you know, if he can get in, and so he got in this week, which is great. So I'll keep my ear out, see if I get a confirmation as well. And then Cy is also, as you know, working to become a licensed registered sanitarian. So again, he's taking a prep course for that. So that is in the works. We also want to give an update on some administrative items as far as New Garden. So this came on our radar. We did a routine inspection over there. Cy conducted that, and it was basically what happened. You know, we were just shocked that a lot of cleaning issues were observed, some other issues. So we basically we're about to voluntarily close them. However, it was more or less like they worked with us on getting items done, corrected on site, which we always encourage them to do immediately when we see a food safety item. And then I went out back with him the following day, and it was just like they had a manager that took the realm. So the owner was not involved, and then the owner's daughter, who usually are there, were not involved as much as, I guess, I don't know what happened, but again, the new manager, Andrea, was there, and she met with us the next day and said, I've whipped this place up into shape. I know you guys were about to close this down. And so she, you know, showed us all the improvements that were made, and it was just like amazing. And I was telling Tim about that. I said, well, this was really a close one. So we basically talked to the owner and said to him, we need to have additional training. We want you to work with a food consultant. So these are the steps in our enforcement policy as far as, you know, in lieu of having an administrative hearing, we thought it was that urgent that we were saying we're going to have a conference call with him, and we're going to have these items spelled out, which have been successful in working with other restaurants. So he immediately contracted with a bilingual food safety consultant. They came that Saturday. So this was in the span of 2 days. That this happened that quickly. And this consultant has been training the staff. Bilingual trainings have been conducted. It's just been great. So I'm hoping we can keep that going. We've been getting copies of the routine audits that are being conducted because we required the food safety consultant not only to do additional trainings, which he did that weekend, but also do unannounced inspections for us, you know, every week. So we've been getting copies of those inspection audits, and they've been slowly coming out, you know, improving week to week. So we're happy to see that. The consultant has requested, since it seems like the daughter is moving away from this, that we need to get another full-time backup to Andrea. Andrea is being certified as we speak. We're saying we need a backup to Andrea as well to be ServSafe certified, because it seems like when Andrea is not there, we get this downhill trend, which is what happened. She admits, she's like, I had a car accident, I was not in the loop, and then this happened. And I said, it was all timing, but I said, you have to have a backup person that's ServSafe certified. So we're going to be working with them, and the consultant agrees. So we're going to basically talk to the owner about that. You got to get additional people trained. We're also working with him too on a HACCP plan, which again, this is for his sushi rice. So we saw that the plan was not being followed. The sushi chef, you know, admit that he would like more training. The consultant has been training him on the new HACCP plan as well. So it's been great. You know, we find that this is working for this establishment. Similar to, as you recall, Manor Cuisine is also working with a consultant. They're doing weekly audit inspections, and we're seeing improvements there. So this seems to be something that we like to use and encourage owners to work with these food safety consultants, because it's not just our eyes on them, but we have a third party coming in and holding them accountable and learn and teaching them these food safety items. The other positive thing I didn't get to mention last month was about Costa's Pizza and Seafood, which that was another one we had on our radar. And I did a joint inspection with Pamela Roskung, and it was, again, perfect. It was night and day. He fixed everything the day. He wasn't, you know, he was very good about the things that we had written up. So we're fine, and we were able to release that, you know, requirement as far as having any additional enforcement with him. So that was another positive update I wanted to share with you. As far as anything else, I don't know if you have any other specific size. off today, but I told him if you had any questions about the demo items that he had worked on, as well as the additional pest areas that we found in town, I'd be happy to answer any additional questions on those items.
Questions? Thank you. All right, what do you want?
No, we're good.
Okay,
Perfect, thank you.
very well. All right. So, speeding right along.
We've already done tobacco regeneration. We have, I think, two other items on the agenda. One is which is our memo of our positions at town meeting, and the other is Article 22. I think Article 22 is going to take longer, so why don't we start there?
Sure. I guess the one thing I might mention about town meeting, just for those who haven't, Ed and Steve have been there, but for Tejal and Robin Artie, all of the Public Health Division and Board of Health items have passed.
So far,
including unanimously the warrant article for scientific expertise. And all of the articles the board chose to support so far have passed.
So the other thing about town meeting, if we're going to mention it briefly, is that it looks like Carol's position is secured as well. Because that came up, there was a question on the budget as to what would happen when that grant expired, because I think we programmed that in actually in future spending. And there was a question that came up about that. Is it intended that once this grant expires that we're going to have a continuing cost? And the select board said yes. And
They
said,
appreciated
sure.
the brevity of that answer.
Yes.
We've determined this is needed and we will have it.
And there was no further discussion and it passed.
Right.
So,
I think it passed unanimously. Even the person who was a little grumpy and asked that question didn't object. So
Yeah, I think it was a unanimous.
yeah. So,
which was nice.
Yeah.
So grant is safe. All right. Article 22.
So Tara, do you want to lead off? This relates to the work
Sure.
that you've been doing with Cheryl Sabara, the Chief Counsel and Executive Director of the Mass Association of Health Boards.
Yeah, so Cheryl, again, as a follow-up to our Mass Call 3, she was able to work with us on revising, and actually that was our intention, to look at our existing synthetic drug regulation and then overhauling it to come up to today's. This was done in 2016, so we needed to update that. We actually ended up just putting out a new regulation based off of Salem's regulation, which she had helped them with, and as well as incorporating Belchertown's kratom. And that's why we had added that on there. That's a naturally. So this was her proposed overhaul of the regulation. So she was looking to, we were grateful that she was able to work with us on doing that. So we're looking for any input you may have on this. This will help us again in enforcement of these items that we're finding in the beverage stores, et cetera, that are just going to be blanketing the town. I mean, the state is warning us about this as well, that it's great that these cities and towns can adopt these local regulations to help us enforce those issues. So.
Okay, discussion.
So it looks like the new article addresses cannabinoids and kratom.
Correct.
But not stimulants and other hallucinogens like the previous document did?
Yeah, so I think we can,
Is
and
this
that's
an
a good
add-on?
question. So these are all the up-to-date items that we've gotten, that Cheryl has investigated and researched, and so we're taking her guidance on this. If there is a way you want to add another section that incorporates anything else that may come up as a result, that could be something we could do. But this is, the most updated version that she has provided, so.
Okay, so including that Exhibit A list? So the old article was there.
So the old article was first,
Right.
the one that is
the
currently
existing
on the
was
books.
Okay, so we're adding on to that or
So-
replacing it?
So the proposal is to essentially, instead of, make a change on this line and make a change in that line, is basically to replace wholesale with the version that has draft stamped on it.
Right. This is the updated one.
And I think the goal is not to get so specific. I think Cheryl Spar said that, not to get so specific. That way we have leeway to work on other things as they pop up.
Well, we did have leeway before. I mean, we said, all of these, including but not limited to.
Yes.
So we've had the leeway for quite some time. But, as Rob points out, things like MDMA would not be covered under this new regulation, where it was covered before.
Okay. So maybe we have to make a list of some questions for Cheryl. We could also ask Cheryl potentially to come to the next meeting if the board is interested. We did want to get a sense from the board whether this is something you'd like to have a hearing on next month, whether you'd like to discuss and debate and edit more, and then potentially have a hearing over the summer.
Does it need a hearing?
So technically, the only hearings that are required by state law are related to Title V. So boards of health can adopt a regulation without a notice public hearing. The spirit of the board has traditionally been, in addition to posting the meeting notice, we should publicly advertise that there is a public hearing coming and publicly advertise that there's a public comment period. And people can comment, in writing, or they can come to the public hearing and make their comment in person or via Zoom. So that's usually how the board has afforded sort of multiple avenues of public participation.
Yeah.
Can I add something?
Sure.
Carol and I were able to join Tara inside. They let us come to the meeting with Cheryl, and it's my recollection that she actually said the opposite. I was under the impression too, like, should it be as broad as possible, because that way it can be inclusive if new things are invented or people are coming up with new things. And she said it should actually be the opposite and should state explicitly what we know now, because that's how individuals in other towns have been kind of getting away with some things because they aren't explicitly stated. And that's why she said we should shift from the broader previous version to this more specific. So maybe if there are other things that we want added, we could ask her recommendation for how to do that. Or I don't know if there should be separate articles for like non-cannabis products, but I don't know. The kratom is in this, and that's not cannabis.
So I think maybe the staff and I can put together some questions. If the board has some questions, we could ask Cheryl, and either she could give us feedback by email, or maybe she could come to discuss with the board at the next meeting. That might maybe be more fruitful. With the idea that we wouldn't be voting next month, we would be reviewing and revising the regulation, and then we'd notice a hearing probably in mid to late July, or wherever the board decides to hold its summer meeting.
I think that's a good idea. I think we should take our time and do this right.
Yep.
Okay.
And get the input from Cheryl.
Yep.
So we got an awful lot of information from the American Kratom Association.
We did.
Right.
Didn't even know that was a thing, but apparently it's a thing.
How much of a thing is kratom and needham? Like, have you come across it?
It's not
in
here
your
yet, but
inspections?
it's out west.
Oh, it's
Western
definitely,
Mass,
and
right?
it's-
So that's why we want to be proactive. We haven't
Yep.
seen it here yet, but I think it's better to have it. And Cheryl agreed to have it, just in case.
So how do people feel about it?
About kratom? I think it seems like,
Well, they've been very active legally. So, I mean,
Right.
if we have a public hearing, they will come, they
Right.
will make their case.
right, it
So-
seems like a lot of the pushback comes from the communities.
Correct.
So that's why I was kind of wondering, like, are we likely to get pushback in our community? Because it seems like in other places, even in Massachusetts, they have. Like Lowell, they did. So, but it sounds like you haven't come across it. But yeah, I think that's where the pushback comes from. We'll probably get,
Well, pushback, I mean, one of those letters, basically said, hey, we want to send people, how do we do that? So I think they're probably reasonably well organized nationally, and they'll find people, if not from Needham, certainly around this area. So I just, I think I spent a couple of hours, a couple of days ago, kind of looking more into this. I mean, obviously for emergency medicine, we've seen a fair amount of this nationally, not necessarily locally. My sense is it's one of these gray areas where, it's a substance that is currently being investigated by NIDA. It may have some medicinal purposes. It is being used essentially, off-label, legally/illegally for substance abuse disorder.
And, that's probably gonna be the actual case indication. That said, we actually have, we have medications for that we know are proven and work. So this is completely unproven. It's kind of a similar vein of marijuana, only it's probably significantly more dangerous in terms of its side effect profile. The association will tell you, there's never been a death. It's like, well, actually, there have been a couple, that they have not been able to attribute to something else. So, I found that the association stuff that they put out was, I think factually accurate, but the interpretations were all rather biased. So saying that, like the UN has declined to schedule it, recommend scheduling, it's like, yeah, that's not because they don't think it's something of concern, it's because they don't have enough evidence yet. Lack of evidence does not necessarily mean that it's safe.
That's right.
And that's where this is right now. So, clearly it's out there, clearly people have been using it, and there may actually be some benefit for this, but we don't have enough data yet. So people are, kind of experimenting on themselves with something that has been used for thousands of years in Southeast Asia. That said, the Association of Southeast Asian States, international organization, has actually banned it in all of their countries. They allow I think they allowed the people to chew the leaves, I think is what it is, but in terms of processing it, I believe that the CS nations have actually banned it.
Right, it's been decriminalized in Thailand, but that's it. Of all the other Asian nations.
It's where it's endemic, right? I mean, that's where this all comes from.
That's where it started.
The association is saying, yes, we should have regulation, that the problems are with unscrupulous manufacturers who, throw all sorts of stuff in this, including fentanyl. So, I mean, I was thinking, all right, well, when we put in the medical marijuana regulations here, I mean, marijuana in Massachusetts, you can actually track the plant from where it's grown all the way to the point of sale. It's like, you want kratom here? Yeah, fine. We want the same thing, right? Because you're saying that, you're admitting that, some of these products are tainted. And, there's a whole web of the manufacturers. There was an expose in the, I think it was in Palm Beach newspaper, did a whole thing about how there are multiple shell companies and multiple distribution points throughout the country, which, so they've tried to create this web, which makes it very, very hard to trace in order to avoid, federal stuff. So, I mean, the feds have intercepted all sorts of shipments. So they bring it in under the pretense of not for human consumption. And if it says not for human consumption, oftentimes the FDA doesn't get involved, or they don't get notified by the import agents. So it's not seized at that point. But they are correct that the FDA has modified their stance to some degree, which is why NIDA is actually doing some of the human research right now on it. So it is very much a gray area.
And the state hasn't made any.
I'm not aware that the state has. There were 6 states that had banned it outright, 5 of which still have that ban in place. There are 11 states that have adopted what their association has said, which is a consumer protection regulation, again, at the state level. It does not involve tracing, but it says, we want, the manufacturer has to be reputable or what have you. It's fine, but when you have this web of, it goes from this processing plant to this, 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 it makes it very difficult to trace. So if we were to do something here locally, we might say, fine, it needs to be produced in Massachusetts, and just like with marijuana, another substance where, we've got some question in terms of safety, but we recognize it's been used for a long time. We want to trace it from plant to consumer, every step of the way. Because you're actually saying that there should be regulation. The problem is, people who are, putting fentanyl in this. So we need to make sure it's not, and we understand that your company might be fine, but we can't track your company, and we can't track every other company. So if we want to do it, this might be a way to do it, if we wanted to allow it at all.
Okay.
Sorry, I spoke a lot, but I did want to.
All right, so we have some more research to do, and we'd like Cheryl to come to the next meeting. And we'll also assemble some questions to go through.
Sorry, Tim, you mentioned the summer meetings. Is that
So they haven't been scheduled yet.
So I
Historically,
thought we might do that now.
that sounds like a great idea. Historically, the board meets every month, except during the summer. It usually holds one meeting instead of a meeting in July and a meeting in August. Usually that meeting is near the end of July, but obviously that's to the board's taste. If it wants to meet both months, it could. If it wants to meet once, it can.
So usually what we've done is we've combined the July and August meetings into a meeting that happens late July or early August. That's usually what we've done in the past. Of course, I'm looking at my schedule and I'm out of town or working those days.
Right, I'm out of town starting the 25th of July through the end of July. So
Yeah,
the
and-
July meeting would have to be before that for me to be here, but I could always do it remotely.
And I'm working all day shifts starting on the 23rd, and then I'm out of town until, August 4th. I mean, I can, theoretically do something August 9th. Which I think we have our current scheduled meeting is August 9th. I mean, we could just, skip July if we wanted to, for instance. Or keep July or whatever.
I don't want to forget Artie online. Artie, did you have thoughts about summer meeting?
Yeah, no, I'll go with the board's recommendation at this point. I might be out between July 15th to August 10th. But again, I can attend remote if needed.
So it sounds like the time that we usually do this is not going to work for anybody.
Yep, sounds like it.
So then the question is just, do we skip one meeting or do we just keep to our regular schedule?
If we skip a meeting, it's gonna be a big time lag between meetings. And yet
Sounds like early July and late August might work.
Yeah.
It sounds like that end of July, early August is not so good for people.
I mean, July
Right,
12th,
sounds
is
like
July
July
12th.
12th is currently on the books. So, I mean, we could keep that time, our usual, Friday morning. And then usually we would meet, we're going to meet in September on the 13th.
So we could just skip August.
So if we skip August, we have a gap of 8 weeks.
Yeah.
That's long.
Wow.
Unless we say that we have the gap, but if there's a need for an emergency meeting, we call one.
So we can do that. We can also do a remote only meeting if the board wanted, if it made it easier for people.
Was August 9th, Stephen, you said were you okay with that?
I'm gonna be here, August 9th.
I don't mind.
But I think Artie was saying she wasn't.
She's gonna be
around.
remote.
August, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so a couple of people got away. I mean, we could do it, but we could, instead of the 9th, it might be on the 16th, who knows?
And I might be away on that day, but that's okay.
I had to put in my August request, so I
Yeah.
blocked off the 9th, but I haven't blocked off anything else. So, but we could call, when and if we decide we need that, we could probably coordinate and find a time. And it's also possible that if we need to have something kind of on a more emergent basis, it might not necessarily be a full agenda because we could deal with whatever it is that we need to deal with at that time.
Sure.
And do that remotely.
Mhm.
Yeah, and I think remote makes sense.
Does that make sense? So we'll keep the July date and, August will be as, if necessary.
If necessary.
And July is going to be in person or July is going to be remote?
In person.
So I think we could do in person
Great.
here as
Okay.
usual.
Sounds good.
Right.
Sounds good.
So it being 11:01, if there is no further business, I'm a stickler. I want to be on time now. We can take a
move
motion.
we adjourn. I'll move we adjourn.
Second?
All right. And any discussion? All right. All those in favor? Rob?
Yes?
Artie? Ed?
Yes.
And myself, yes. Okay.
Okay.
Thank
Sounds
you.
great. Thanks, everyone.
All right.